Hi everyone, welcome back to our final video on function operations. In our last video, we covered adding and subtracting functions and talked about the little details that we should be aware of with those. In this video, we're going to talk about multiplying. Now, the first thing that I always like to be aware of with multiplying is that I like to put both functions in parentheses when I'm doing this. So I'm going to jump right in with the first question here, which asks me to multiply f of x times g of x. Remember that little dot represents multiplication. And I'll take these two functions. We'll recall them from the last video. 3x minus 2 and 5x plus 11. And I'll put them side by side with with parentheses. Now, there are various ways of doing this. Some teachers use the box method, the lattice method it can be called. I simply like to distribute. So what that means is however many terms are in the first set of parentheses, that's how many times I'll need to distribute. In this situation, I've got 3x and I've got negative 2, and both of those will need to be distributed to the second set of parentheses. So I'll take my 3x multiplied by 5x, and also multiply the 3x by the 11. Now, when I multiply 3x times 5x, we might be a little rusty. Remember, anytime we multiply two terms and they both have x's, that leaves us with x squared. So this part would be 15x squared. So I'll have 15x squared from that part, and then I have the 3x multiplied by the 11. 3 times 11 is 33, so plus 33x. Now the second part of this, I will need to distribute the negative 2, again, to both parts of the second set of parentheses. I'll use a different color for that. And when I come in with this part of the problem, I like to stack it up with the like terms from the first part. So I look at negative 2 times 5x. I know that's negative 10x. And in my head I think, well, what would that combine with when I'm combining terms? And it would be with the regular 33x. So I'll put that underneath here. Then I look at the negative 2 again. Negative 2 times 11 is negative 22. That doesn't combine with anything. And you don't need to do it that way, but I like to do it just to kind of get a jump start on my combining terms. At this point, that is what I'll do. I'll bring down the 15x squared. 33x minus 10x gives me 23x. The minus 22 comes down on its own, and that is my final answer. So really the key here is putting both functions in parentheses and being very careful with your distributive property. If you can just use distributive property, these are pretty easy. Let's take a look at another one. In our second problem here, these functions are actually the same ones we've used before. We've got f of x equals x squared minus 3x, and g of x is x minus 12. Now, as we said before, I'm going to put both of these functions in parentheses before I multiply. And that's just a reminder that I need to distribute all the way through. So as I get set up for this one, I'll start by distributing the x squared to both terms. Now, if you haven't done one of these in a while, you might be a little unsure on what happens when you multiply an x squared by an x. I'll let you think about that for a quick second. Well, anytime you multiply an x squared by an x, remember there's an implied 1 on an x. And when you multiply, you add exponents. So that's going to turn into an x to the third. So that's our first one. We get x to the third. If I continue, x squared times negative 12, well, that's just negative 12x squared. We do have to make sure we distribute a second time. So negative 3x. I will also distribute that into the second set of parentheses. Negative 3x times x. I have those two x's. That's going to give me an x squared. And over here, negative 3x times negative 12. Remember, when you multiply two negatives, you get a positive. So that will give me a positive 36x. And note how I kind of sorted this out. I put the like terms, which are the x squareds, on top of one another. Then I just add moving down the x cubed alone, the 36x on its own, And over here, I'm combining negative 12 plus negative 3, and that combination gives me negative 15 x squared. One question that often comes up when combining like terms is, are we supposed to add those exponents together? And the answer to that question is no. When you're multiplying at the beginning, as an example over here, when you multiply, you add exponents. When you're coming over here and just adding things together, of course known as combining terms, we do not change exponents when we're combining terms, only when multiplying initially. We'll take a look at one more of these and work it all the way through. This is our familiar example from the last video with capital H of x and capital K of x. And in this one, once again, we're going to start by putting both functions in parentheses. And this is a little different because that first set of parentheses actually has 3 terms in it. And what that means is we're going to actually have to distribute 3 times. The 5x squared, the 2x, and the 9. So just a slightly larger problem. Nothing terribly new here, but a larger problem. I'll start by distributing the 5x squared to both of those 2 terms in the back. Keep an eye out here with this 5x squared and this negative 9x. That's kind of similar to what I had on the last problem. That's going to give me an x to the 3rd. And 5 times negative 9 is negative 45. So I'll start there. 5x squared multiplied all the way over here by this negative 4. That'll give me negative 20x squared. That's the first one done. For my second distributing, I am distributing that plus 2x. 2x multiplied by negative 9x, 2 times 9 is negative 18, and that will be an x squared because they are both regular x's. So I'll put that here. 2x multiplied by negative 4 will give me negative 8x. Finally, my last distributive property is with the 9. This is probably the easiest one. 9 times negative 9x would give me negative 81x. And 9 times negative 4 is negative 36. Again, note my stacking. You don't have to do it this way, but for me it helps keep me organized. Because now I can just look down and see the negative 45x cubed is on its own. The negative 20 and negative 18 on the x squared will add to negative 38. The negative 8 and negative 81 on the x's, that adds up to negative 90. And then negative 36 to finish things off. So a slightly larger problem, like I said at the beginning, but the ideas are still exactly the same. As usual, I like to end the videos by giving you a chance to try a couple of problems prior to class. So go ahead and give these a shot, pause the video, and the work will be up in a moment. Okay, hopefully you've taken a moment to try these 2 problems out. I'm going to go through these a little bit quicker, articulating what I'm doing as I go. In the first one, I've got f of x times g of x. I'll put those both in parentheses. Especially compared to the last one we've done, this is a pretty small question. I just need to do my distributing twice. 2x times 3x gives me 6x squared. 2x times that negative 7 gives me negative 14x. When I distribute the 5 times 3x gives me 15x, and 5 times negative 7 gives me negative 35. After I combine my like terms in the middle, which gives me a 1x, my final answer would be 6x squared plus 1x minus 35 as my final. Now for the second one, g of x times h of x, a little more complicated here. Let's erase so I can actually see this guy g of x up here. Okay, so I've got 3x minus 7 multiplied by h of x. X squared plus 4x plus 5. And I've got what we call a trinomial in the second one. Trinomial just means there are 3 terms, which I do have here. But the first one actually only has 2 terms, so that's kind of nice. The 3x and the negative 7. So let's go on through. 3x multiplied by that x squared will give me 3x cubed. Remember, any x times an x squared is x cubed. 3x times the 4x will give me 12x. And 3x times that 5 will give me 15x. And now if I go ahead with that negative 7, the negative 7 distributed all the way through will produce, let's see, a negative 7x squared. I actually forgot a squared in the upper step there, thank you. Negative 7x squared, the negative 7 multiplied by the 4x gives me negative 28x. And finally, the negative 7 times the 5 gives me negative 35. It looks like I haven't quite given myself enough space to put that down, so we'll just kind of cramp it in over there. And combining my terms, we'll start with the 3x cubed. We've got 12 minus 7 is 5. We've got a 15x and a negative 28x, which gives me negative 13x, and bring down that negative 35. And that is our final answer for this problem. Hope that helped you understand a little bit how you multiply functions together. We'll work on these a little bit more in class. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.